exciting. Finally, the panel is all sewn together and it's complete, the base panel for my first project. It took a while. I think it's about like 45 to 50 hours so far. There's still additional work to go on top of that, but very, very excited and I cannot wait to show you. So hang tight. So I don't think I've mentioned this, but a few weeks ago, I finally received the first part of my yarn order from James of Shetland, who is very famous for their Shetland wool production. And as part of my project, my goal was to either use secondhand, upcycled and reusable yarn from what I currently exist, so not buying and purchasing anymore, utilizing what's in charity shops, local charity shops, so I could support them, reuse hubs, as well as actual knitwear that I can unravel and reuse the material. The only thing that I wanted to buy, and to buy new, is from Shetland and Shetland wool, which is, you know, one of the most famous Scottish fibre export. And I finally got my order, and I have been holding back with opening it because I knew I had to film the video for it and I've been quite busy. But here it is. I'm very, very excited. So I am going to do this on camera, so you can also see what has been ordered. Now, I can't remember all the names, but basically the idea is I wanted to touch on a few different color groups and color options. So I think that there's still like 5 or 6 colors that is out of stock and they're still spinning. And this order actually took about 8 weeks because most colors I wanted in the thickness that I wanted in DK weren't available, so they had to spin them on my order. So this is great because, you know, supporting Scottish local business is one of the main goals for this project. And I really wanted to make sure that I also utilize fibre that comes from, you know, the rich Scottish heritage background. And what's more Scottish than Shetland wool, right? Right. So I was saying that I didn't order all the colour obviously because they have hundreds, but I ordered several colour groups. And I actually need to get my laptop just so that I can like group them together, so you can see. But actually before then, maybe I can just start taking them out and you can see what I've got. So they're all 1 kilogram cones. No, 500 gram or 1 kilogram? Actually, I can't really remember. But I knew that, no, 500 grams because by using on the machine in different ways, I wanted enough color options so I can do a lot of color works, because I think the exciting type of design element that I can really provide and to give to this project is, you know, taking traditional Fair Isle design, but using Chinese motifs and Chinese inspired patternation for it. And for me, you know, what stands out as Fair Isle is, you know, the 2 colors, but multicolor, super colorful, intricately designed, you know, surface design work that goes with what you think about or you think of when you think about Fair Isle. I didn't want to not do that. So, and also because I'm also going to be doing sandcar knitting as well, which is primarily cream and black. So I have that in terms of my monochrome palette. So the Fair Isle part of the project is like, it has to be super colorful. It has to be almost like show-stopping and chaotically colorful. So yes, so lots of colors. So this is Fog. We have Buttercup. So I don't know if you can tell already, but like I'm aiming for a slightly heathery, lightish color palette for one group option. Sunglow, very pretty. We have Steel. So this is part of my monochrome type. So this is more the grey side. We have a lavender, a mist even, very beautiful. Then there is also Dewdrop. As you see, these are all heathered Heathered being, you know, there's a mix of yarn, a mix of colors within the yarn strand. It's not just one single sort of color. You can clearly see that it's plied with a great, basically, when you say something that's heathered, they tend to have 3 to 4 strands of colors mixing with them. So there's normally a white, there's normally a gray, a darker shade, and then the actual shade itself. So that's why you get this sort of mulled and heathery color. I don't know how else to explain it. This is rye. It's very beautiful. And then in terms of this collection, I think this is also one of them. Yes, this is salmon. Salmon, very lovely. So these, I believe, is my idea of a more dreamlike, hazy palette. If I can carry all of them, let's see. Can I manage? Almost. I've got one more. Oh. Hang on. If I do this one up here, no, this is not staying. That's not staying, is it? Oh, this maybe this. Yay! You can't see either. There we go. So this is of this color. I believe I'm missing one color. I believe it's a sort of straw hay color that I also have, and that will come later on. Then we have, this goes in here, my black. Well, this is not actually black. It's, well, yes, jet black. So this is the main one I'm going to be using for my sandcar knitting. Sandcar, along with a nat white. So I opt for not an optic white or a cream, but this sort of greyish white. It's still more grey, more white and cream and grey, but next to each other. This is what they look like. And so I believe that this actually in the sunlight, it's more like dark brown than like black, jet black, which I really like. And I don't feel like for that theme that I'm going for, I should go for anything too like optic white or jet black. I quite like the more natural side of like cream and a dark brown. This is another nat white. So I knew that I needed to use a lot of white, hence 2 cones of it. And as you can see, the size difference, this is 1 kilogram, and this is 500 grams. So that's the main size difference. Right, so now I also have a palette where it is more of the traditional, like, if you think about tartan, you think about like a dark, deep colors. So these are for that. Now, I do know that I have a few colors that are missing because they're not made up yet, so that's fine. But the 2 that are here are, is that the name of it? Gentian and coffee. So I am currently missing a dark red and then also a deep dark forest moss green. And so that would be the 4 colors that goes with this. Along, I believe, also a dark grey as well, because that, along with the nat white, it's going to be one palette that I want to be utilizing. Now, this is the one that I'm quite excited about. So again, there's still like 2 colors missing from this palette, but I also wanted to opt for a very bright rainbow color because I feel like my initial inspiration for this whole project is my son. And when you think about a toddler, you know, you think about the artwork, you think about the books they read, the coloring like stuff that they make. It's super bright color. It's not subdued. It's not like your mustard yellow or your dusty pink. You know, it's very much like primary colors. So I also want to use that as an inspiration for part of this project as well. So we have scarlet. We have an orange as well, but that's not here at the moment. We have, oh, I believe this actually, this cornfield is also part of my tartan color. So actually, let me redo this. And imagine this with a dark forest green and a deep red. So that's the palette. Right, so this one is the scarlet, red, and orange. That's not here yet. We have mimosa, beautiful color for a flower. Then we have a lime. And then a splash. You see how like primary these colors are? It's fantastic. Right, I can possibly rest them on the box for now. Then we also have a china blue because who doesn't like a little light blue as a shade variant? A lovely royal. There's a purple also, that's not here yet, I believe, and then a fuchsia. Or I like to always call it a fuchsia. That's how I remember how to spell it. So fuchsia. So again, this palette, when it's all together, will be, imagine with the orange and purple as well. And yellow. You see, this is a much more primary and bright color palette, and I love it. Obviously, the last project that you've seen me doing, the tartan panels that are crocheted, have all been made with existing yarn that I have. I didn't really follow the palette I was talking about just now with my color choices with the Shetland wool, but these will take completely different direction. And also, you know, apart from knitting or crocheting a base fabric with these, I will also be using them for very colorful motif crocheting that will be hugely inspired by traditional Chinese floral motifs and like mystical creature motifs as well. Like there's so many type of style of illustration that are so inspiring when it comes to freeform crochet that, you know, I can't not have the colors because that would just not do them any justice. So I'm very, very excited about using these for my project. And even though, you know, I talked about color groups and how there's like hazy, heathery ones, there's the darker tartan one, and there's the primary color, the super bright ones. Ultimately, I want to mix them together. They don't need to be by themselves. You know, there are so many methods for me to mix and match them together that I don't necessarily want to tie myself down to a specific structure when it comes to the color groups. It was just more like letting you know, when I was choosing which color to buy, that was my thinking point. Like if I started out with some sort of palette, then I could work with them all together because, oh my gosh, I also got a shade card from them. And could you just imagine if you had to choose from all these colors, how would you even start choosing, right? You couldn't. There's just so many. You just want them all. So I set myself the goal of, you know, picking those palettes and then narrowing down what I want to get. Because ultimately, I also do not want to over-purchase. I don't want to over-consume. I want to buy what I need and buy what is required for this project, and that's it. Like, I don't need to be purchasing more than what is needed. So I need to also have that discipline when it comes to color picking as well. So very excited. And then as you can see at the back of the shade card, you know, like very traditional Fair Isle knitting. And you can see all the colours, you know, that they would use in a beautiful piece like that. So I'm very excited. And yes, actually, one of the first things that I am going to be doing is I'm going to tell you now. So yes, let me put the box away first. Right, so coming back here, I have now completed my tartan panel. It's much bigger than I previously thought. And previously, I actually thought I would be alternating them with a crochet mesh panel, which I would embroider on. However, I really wanted and felt like, actually, you know what, I want this piece to, sort of the first piece that I do, I want it to be colourfully challenging almost and chaotic. Just to show, you know, show myself, not so much other people, like what I could do if I really sort of give myself that parameter of only use this specific yarn that I have and yeah, essentially just don't try to do anything else and setting that goal. But I've decided that what I want to do next is utilise one of these lovely, lovely iPod machine. I'm excited about this because these ones you can actually attach it to a table. So pop the TV on and then I can get going. But I will be using this knitwear, creating a huge cord with this machine, and then using that cord, I will be tacking it down and sewing on a traditional Chinese cloud decorative pattern on this piece. The reason I chose white is obviously this is very, very colourful. Instead of adding another colour onto it, I felt like I wanted to use something a bit more soft. So I didn't want to use, you know, like something stark like a black, or I know people tend to think about like, oh, what about the blue and the white combo? You know, that's very Chinese, especially with a lot of the crockery. Yes, but I feel like for this specific design that I have in mind, I want it to just be in the white, and so that almost comes out a bit like a halo, and that comes out and it's quite attention grabbing. It's not optic white, once again, it's not optic white, so it doesn't feel unnatural. This white, this cream white feels very like a nature type of white. And I think it's going to look really beautiful. This pattern will have a lot of lines and a lot of, lots and lots of lines on it. So I'm going to have to make a very, very long cord. Maybe I'll include some of a sped up video of me making that cord, or like of me winding it together. I first of all also need to give this a nice iron, trim off all the ends at the back. Although there's something really beautiful about the tassels at the back like this. There's something really beautiful about it. If this was a blanket, I probably would leave it, but it's not a blanket. So I need to hang this up, give this a nice iron, a nice press, think about what I want to do with the edge, and then start with the cord design, and then that would be the first piece. I mean, look at that. It's beautiful. All these colors together, absolutely stunning. Stunning, stunning, stunning. So, for my project, as you know, I have finished the back panel, which is bigger than I thought. But it's so nice. I love the feeling of it. So I have finished the back panel of my first piece, which you have seen. It is so big and chunky. Look at that. It's much, much bigger than I thought it was going to be, but look at these colors. I love them. If anyone wants to commission me to make them a blanket with this technique, with the colors theme in mind, I'd be so happy to. This was so much fun to make. Honestly, part of me is like, oh, do I just do like multiple pieces of this? I mean, I'll re-explore this idea in some other capacity, but oh, look at this. So nice. Just like, I love the contrast of different colors together. I love how it looks. I just think it's, and then this is the other side. But yeah. And then obviously because each panel has its own, essentially, tartan pattern that I sort of follow. So everything is a bit irregular, but it just makes it also well together. I still need to block it. But now that the panel is done, I'm currently working on putting something together for, you know, some image ideas. So, you know, I want to, if you think about like whimsical Chinese like art style, you know, one of the main things that I personally think of is like the swirly cloud illustration that you would get, like the variation of it. That's very dreamlike as well. I think the theme that clouds normally represent. So, you know, I want to explore embroidering those patterns onto this piece with my very own first ball of I-cords that I did with my machine, my little turning machine. It was actually really good. You know, I had an audiobook on and I was just doing this, but what I had not anticipated of how long it's going to take is the untwisting of it, because this whole thing, instead of something, it's like a knitting machine would, instead of a carriage going around the needle to essentially slot the yarn over, it relies on the needle's own twisting movement to push the latch down and to get a new bit of yarn, hook onto the needle, and then for the yarn to come, from the yarn on the previous row to come off it, which means this twist. And then when you've got meters and meters of this, that twist is horrendous to deal with. I think I probably spent more time untwisting this than actually knitting it on this. So I need to find a way to make it more efficient. It could potentially be just making shorter stripes, because some of the other ideas I had is like, you know, multi-color option. I'm only using one color for this, so I thought I'll just do one stripe, but actually it could work better if I just do many, many shorter strips of this I-cord instead of trying to make a whole ball of it, because that unwinding process, I mean, it's fun. I love, like, if I have a tangled ball of yarn, nothing gives me greater pleasure than untangling it you know, with a TV show on, with an audiobook or with a podcast. But something about this actually pushed me a little bit to the edge, because I think it doesn't give you that satisfaction of like seeing the yarn at the end of it just going like, you know, like unwinding it. It still gets stuck. So you're just like, nothing, like it just doesn't go smoothly. Whereas like if you're untangling a big ball of yarn, yes, you might come across some knots. Yes, you have to like do some under and over technique and mechanism. But in the end of the day, you get a smooth piece of yarn. This, I feel like it was a real battle. It was a real battle. Anyway, but I'm excited to do this. So I'll be mapping out different clouds, illustrations and texture onto this piece of fabric. And the idea is to essentially make this almost like an entry piece into a chaotic, colorful, dreamlike world, dreamlike textile world of my making that is inspired by Teo. So yeah, lots of talk. I can't wait to get this going. But also just like, I just really like the potential effect that you can have with this. For example, something like, I'm just very, very quickly trying to think of something that I can do here, like just feel like I'd love to be able to visually show you some of the things I'm thinking about and what that means, because right, so I might have to move the camera so I can show you quickly what I mean. Actually no, you know what, I'm going to pin it down. So I'm going to pin this down and then you can see what I mean by it. But yeah, a dreamlike floating cloud texture embroidery onto this absolutely chaotic piece of fabric is going to be so wonderful. And tomorrow is also the second of my 2 taster workshops that I'm hosting for my local community in my local youth centre, Dunblane Centre. If you don't know about the Dunblane Centre, it's basically a charity that was set up after the tragedy that happened here, and it absolutely is a pillar to the community. It provides so much support and space and activities for local communities, far and wide, all age group, all time of the day, during, you know, any day of the week. And it's just great to be able to use their space to, you know, bring this project and like, you know, have these taster sessions where I really engage with the community. So I've done one last week for adults and one tomorrow for teens, and I'm hoping to host a few more tester ones in the near future, just to get more idea of like how and what it would be like, and whether, you know, there's an appetite for it, whether how I can like engage with them a bit more, and just giving me inspiration about potential community project that I can put together for, you know, another part of this project. So very, very excited. What a lovely backdrop of yarn. So, right, I don't think I have actually even mentioned what my next piece is going to look like. Well, it's been something on my mind a lot. And you know, these very traditional Chinese watercolor scroll that you'd get, where a very beautiful piece of drawing of floral pattern or like mystical scenery, or a maiden by the river going on a stroll, drawn very delicately with watercolor, a line of poetry on the side, and then it's always backed onto a very intricately designed piece of silk that has a beautiful floral pattern, or it doesn't have to be a floral pattern, but a very beautiful, intricate like line printed pattern. Well, my goal for my next project is actually going to be creating a sandcar design using the existing like sandcar motifs, but adapting them slightly, if I can combine them to make them into more of a, that when you look at it, you just think, oh, Chinese culture. Or like, I don't know if people still say the word Orientalism. And yeah, and then basically doing that in a, like I said, the black and white yarn that I have. It will be quite a big piece, so I'll be doing this on a machine. So I can't wait to start actually taking my machine out and start showing you how I do it. Then on the top of it, I will create a piece of flat white knitted material that sits on top. I'm going to sew on top. But I'm going to then use, again, the I-cord method and to create colourful, traditional Celtic knotted flowers. So I would look at very traditional Celtic motifs and finding floral pattern design that's made and designed with Celtic knots. And the very, you know how like the sort of like macrame woven together. And yeah, I'll be doing that and applying it on top. It will have a more whimsical and more of a childlike approach because the color will be brighter, the graphic of the backing material will be a lot more striking and a lot bigger in comparison to a more traditional piece of Chinese drawing where the color is very soft. The design of the backing material is very intricate. This will be a bit more bold, a bit more striking. Everything will sit and it's sort of like, not an assault on the eyes, but just like a bit bolder and bigger. And that is where I'm going to start introducing a more childlike quality to the artwork that I'll be making. Very excited about this. So let's see where it goes.